AI, agentic AI. What does it mean? When we talk about a lot, like an agent, an AI agent. I saw all these great presentations from Salesforce talking about their agentic AI they're rolling out. And I've seen some really good vendors that have agents, agentic AI.
Get ready for a new episode of KP Talks Dollars and Cents. Learn financial literacy and get real-time updates on all things housing, finance, and real estate. So let's get started. Here's your host, Kevin Perenio.
Hey, it's KP coming to you live from Corona, California. Last video of the year, 2024 is over. What a busy day. First guy on the street. As soon as the garbage truck picked up my cans, I hauled them in immediately. Did the dishes, got the other trash out, got a lot of stuff done. First call at 8:30. Been rocking and rolling, had calls all day. We got a lot of Christmas bonuses out today for our senior management, which was pretty awesome. Investing in our people. And we gave everyone, I think I mentioned last week, a half day. So tomorrow at noon Pacific time, we'll be closed. But we're still paying all of our employees $1,500, all those that are salaried at least. And we'll be paying them a half day, but still getting wires out. Poor wire room. They always sacrifice. Busy day, crazy day, lots going on. Rice Park Capital put their third investment out. Can't talk about it yet, but lots of cool stuff going on with them, and there'll be a press release out there. Third investment in their venture tech fund 2, which they renamed as something, and I forgot the name of it. I'm a limited partner, and also on their strategic advisory board. Mesa, the credit card, the first credit card to give you reward points when you pay your mortgage, has a lot of cool stuff cooking here just in the first 60 days of the year. Man, a lot going on. So really excited about 2025. We're already over 2,000 families served here, and we've projected for 27% growth going into next year. And the 10-year Treasury gave us a little bit back. But again, thaw out last week, thaw out this week. It's light trading, light volume. Rates are pretty much about where they were at the beginning of last week. And, but I still think the trend is down for the 10-year Treasury. We've got some really big PCE and CPI reports from 12 months ago that are being replaced, even with what we've been seeing lately on the CPI and PCE, Fed deflator, personal consumption expenditure. The comps are being replaced by this pace that we're at, replacing some very large ones for December, January, February, and March. That means each report all the way through April should generally be good improvement, which should ease inflation concerns. And of course, we have a continuing resolution, the largest inflation component in our economy and arguably the world is fiscal policy, which can only be controlled by Congress, not the Fed. And so there's a lot of uncertainty, right, versus certainty on what's going to happen with the new administration. Yes, there was a third version that was somewhat fiscally responsible, but it's only good through the middle of March. So we're going to have a Fed meeting January 29th and another one on March 19th. And that will be a dot plot. So that's the every other meeting. And then May 7th and June 18th. So we'll have a lot of news coming out to bring certainty. Of course, tariffs are all the talk. How much money are we going to spend on deporting criminals and whatever else is going to go on. So, but I'm hopeful, as I always am, every 2025. There's nobody here. It's almost 9 o'clock at night. Just busted out a chest workout, just knocked that out. And I'm ready to go into the new year, playing volleyball on the sand tomorrow afternoon, and pretty excited about trying to be fit. Of course, I haven't gotten rid of all my vices. So, all right, R.I.P. Jimmy Carter, the longest lived president. He was 100 in October, and he just passed away a couple days ago. Passed from cancer, and he and his wife were married 77 years. That is the longest couple of president and first lady in the office. And she was a big, active. I mean, you talk about women being on the board. She was in the cabinet meetings. He put more women and minorities in appointees and positions than any other president before him. His legacy is incredible. Now, the top line legacy, right? Like, there was a 444-day Iranian hostage standoff, which culminated in April of 1980, an election year where he lost to Reagan, with a failed attempt at a hostage rescue, where 8 Americans died. Now, those hostages were released, but the Iranian Ayatollah didn't give them up until the day after he took office is kind of in the face. And here we are today, still dealing with Iran, and they're part of the axis of evil, right? And so we're still dealing with them today. But he did some other things as well. He helped broker a peace deal in the Middle East, which we don't have peace right now in the Middle East. But there is peace between Egypt and Israel, which is Israeli Prime Minister Begin and Anwar Sadat, Egyptian president. He helped broker that peace. And 1982, the Nobel Peace Prize was given to those two. And not him, but he got one in 1992 because for like 40 years, the Carter Center did so much work around the world to create peace. He set when he was president, he set aside land in Alaska to be a national wildlife rescue, wildlife reserve, not to be drilled in. Created the Department of Energy, created the Department of FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Association. I mean, it still obviously is important every day. How much do we talk about FEMA? And of course, he did not get any Supreme Court picks, but he elevated Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who I have a picture of her over here on my desk somewhere, to the second highest court, which paved the way for her to be a Supreme Court justice. And of course, he helped partially deregulate railroads, airlines, and the trucking industry. So a lot done. RIP. The stock market will be closed in honor of him next week. And this will be the third shortened week, I believe next Monday, where he is honored. So the stock market will be closed in honor of our fallen president. It's nice to see that kind of respect for the office posthumously. Okay, so the market is closed Wednesday. It's New Year's. It's 2025. I could get into like a bunch of like recaps of last year and forecasts for next year, but that's all overdone. We do that all the time here, so I won't do that. I will say that it was interesting to see, and again, I am not a financial advisor. I am not responsible for your losses, only your profits. And past performance does not dictate future performance. But stocks have been ripping over 25%, about 25% return on the S&P each of the last 2 years. Imagine being so bearish and you were out and you missed all that. You should really think twice about who you listen to. So next year is going to be interesting because there's still some uncertainty. The Fed kind of set the table. The Fed put, where they put a floor on the market, has been lowered. They said in December only 2 rate cuts in 2025 and not 4. But what was interesting is I went to the Fed Funds CME futures tool, and just in 1 week, the chance of a 25 basis point cut in January 29th, has doubled, basically from 6 to 12%. Now, I don't believe that. I do think the Fed is going to pause. They said they're going to do less cuts, so why wouldn't they pause the very next meeting? And so that's kind of what the market expects, still 88.2% chance of that. But in March, more than half, okay, March 19th, more than half of the smart money institutional buyers, only 46.2% think there will be no cut in the March meeting. So that means quite a bit more is thinking that over 50%, about 54% think there's going to be a cut. And that could change as those inflation numbers come out, as we get more certainty. When President Trump's administration takes office January 20th and decides what they're going to do right away with tariffs and the budget and how those budget talks start to progress. What's Doge going to do? The Department of Government Efficiency, not to be confused with Dogecoin, which is actually quite the replica of Bitcoin. Speaking of Bitcoin, this is a very pro-cryptocurrency administration. And have you been out on crypto? It's okay. It's fear of the unknown. There's a lot of uncertainty. It's gotten pretty established. So I'm not saying crypto is going to run next year, but if you've been in crypto, you've been absolutely crushing it. Just saying. And so if the government is going to buy 1 million Bitcoin or whatever it is going to do as part of our strategic reserve, that's a very interesting play. It's digital gold, okay? Its supply will come down, and it has a finite supply. So the amount of supply, I think it's like 21 million coins, something like that, is all will ever be minted, okay? Now, Elon could go, mine an asteroid or the moon or Mars or somewhere and launch some rockets, SpaceX, and mine for gold and come back and create the gold market. That could happen. And so what would that do to the price of gold? Anyone into gold? I'm not saying it's happening anytime soon, but I will say that what's an interesting development about fiscal responsibility in our investing and growing into next year, Bitcoin's part of the conversation. And so whether you believe it or not doesn't matter anymore. Whether you believe in, color television or air conditioning or like the patent office said, Barry Habib, my good friend, used to put up this awesome slide from like the late 1800s where the U.S. patent office guy said, hey, we're closed. Everything that will ever be invented has been invented. Someone said that when the internet came out, it was a fad and it's going to go away. Someone said that when bicycles came out, that it was a fad and it's going to go away. There are always curmudgeons out there, and they're always wrong, always. So, talking about Bitcoin, let's talk about this. If Congress passes any kind of bills, or if the administration decides with the Department of Treasury to invest in that, that's very interesting. But by the way, the Congress that we just had passed like the least amount of bills in like 4 decades. So 150 bills were passed in the 118th Congress. The average is 380 laws. So, they did not pass a raise for minimum wage for federal employees. So the states have taken it into their own hands. And 9.2 million people are getting a pay raise this week. So starting January 1st, there are a ton of states that have raised their minimum wage. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing for the economy. Maybe it will strap the budgets. I don't know. We'll find out. But if we have a vibrant, growing economy and more consumers get money in their pocket, which 70% of our gross domestic product is consumer spending, that's a good thing. So back to the 1 million Bitcoins over the next 5 years in our strategic reserve. I found it interesting that Cantor Fitzgerald, remember Cantor Fitzgerald? They had like the top floors of one of the buildings in the Twin Towers that fell on 9/11. Thank God they made it through as a company. They're investing $600 million in a company called Tether. Now, Tether has a ticker symbol called USDT, and it's basically pegged to the dollar. It is 1-to-1 peg of the Tether coin to the US dollar. Now, what's interesting is it's like this middle layer that allows and unlocks all the wealth inside Bitcoin or other assets. And so if you are able to invest in funds that are tethered to other assets, gold, Bitcoin, US equities, treasuries, there is a way to unlock the power of that. Imagine having a house with equity and you can never take cash out against it. Well, now with Tether, there is an ability to take, in essence, a lien against it. More debt sounds bad, but you know what? Debt makes the world go round. Credit makes the world go round. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Just as an example, if there were $50 trillion in the world, $1 trillion of it's cash and $49 trillion of it is credit. Sounds over leveraged and crazy, but that's what gets all these things going. Projects like AI, investment, venture capital, all the stuff that makes the world go round, and the velocity of money keeps on churning. AI, agentic AI, what does it mean? When we talk about a lot, like an agent, an AI agent. I saw all these great presentations from Salesforce talking about their agentic AI they're rolling out, and I've seen some really good vendors that have agents, agentic AI. So we're going to be talking about it quite a bit. We're bringing on, obviously I've talked about some of our partners out there, like Friday Harbor. We're bringing that in for file ingestion, and I'm looking at other ones at voice. We as a company are looking at other ones as voice for agentic AI. And it's all come from venture capital and money and investment, and that's what gets things going. And our worker productivity is huge in this country. It's growing, and it will help grow our GDP, which is one way to get out from under the debt and deficit. Had a great conversation back and forth on my last video with Steven. We talked about kicking the can down the road for this continuing resolution, kicking the can down the road for, we haven't passed a budget in years. So hopefully we'll pass a budget and get some certainty here with this new administration shortly. And I made an analogy. I took that analogy of kicking the can down the road. That's okay if we kick the can down the road. If we're kicking slower, the can is shrinking, and we're out paving the pace of our kicking with a longer and wider road. And that is something that we can do potentially. However, we do have how much treasuries come and due? $16 trillion of treasuries come and due over the next 5 years. That means if we don't print another dollar, we have to refund that. Okay, it's like $6 trillion this year. So the Department of Treasury and the Fed are going to be busy, which is what the worry is right now with the Fed, which is why we saw the 10-year Treasury spike up for this fear of unknown. We didn't have a budget at the time when they had their December meeting. We didn't know what spending was going to be like next administration. And so we got to see that and bring some certainty to the markets. And then over time, whether it's higher or not, or whatever the budget is, the certainty will bring the comfort for the institutional traders to then feel confident about investing in whatever asset class they want to, including treasuries, 5 and 10 years, treasuries, which of course are reflected in the mortgage interest rates. No more medical charges reported on credit reports starting January 1st in California. Yay. Have a great one. Happy New Year. Cheers. Go Longhorns. Hey, it's KP coming to you live from Corona, California. Welcome to 2025. I wrote a quote down that I saw in an article on Monday regarding the semiconductor market and chips and the advancement of AI. And I felt it was fitting about just everything about 2025, about life and everything we're going through. So it was interesting. It basically said, this is not the beginning of the end when it comes to anything in life, your journey, AI. It said, this isn't even the end of the beginning. This is the beginning of the beginning. And if you think of every new year as a rebirth and a chance for you to build on what you've done before, you can't really wipe out the past, but you can always build on what you've learned and go forward. And we don't always go in a straight line. We don't go straight up to the right, and that's just how it is. And so then I saw this crazy New Orleans terrorist attack, which seems to be, according to the FBI, a lone wolf attack. Someone, who was, maybe down and out, had their mind in a bad spot, hijacked by extremism. And, just in an instant, 10 people were dead and 5 more died after. And so do yourself a favor. If you're not a doom scroller, don't start being a doom scroller in 2025. It's a horrible habit that I picked up very early on in my junior high and high school days. I can really stomach seeing some horrific stuff, and the videos are pretty bad. I was in New Orleans a year ago for the Sugar Bowl when Texas lost to Washington, and just the fact that a car can just rip down the street like that in a crowded area when there's barriers, it still boggles my mind. But that's not why it happened. It happened because extremism took over. And so my fear, and I have fears, is that this is the beginning of the beginning. I was talking to someone, a fellow board member, Nick Pabarkis, who's has congratulations, had a nice promotion on LinkedIn today. You can check him out over at Logan Finance. I told him that, after watching almost 2 years of this Ukraine and Russia war, and over a year now of thousands dead, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands in Israel, and the Hamas conflict, my biggest fear is drone warfare and that coming to our shores. And the gentleman who is also ex-Army from Fort Bragg in Las Vegas, who thought it was funny, I guess, to take a shot at both Elon Musk and Trump by renting a cyber truck and parking underneath the Trump Tower in Vegas, was a drone technician for the Army. And so, I really do worry about where that's going to go. But I am hopeful that our government will get out in front of that, and this isn't the beginning of something worse. Sorry to open up the year like that, but obviously our hearts and prayers go out to all the victims. It's just a horrific thing. Thank God the cyber truck is so sturdy. Did you know it's a metal alloy that's literally never been created? That dumbass didn't even know. He blew himself up. Good. See ya. All right, next. What's going on? We have some news out this week. Dan and Barry Habib, Barry's been fighting his own personal battle and still rocking. Put out some good information about the Case-Shiller and FHFA home price index. And so we did see home price appreciation. And the FHFA home price index was up 4.5% year over year. Now, that's interesting because it only looks at conforming loans, right? Because the FHFA is the regulator over Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. I'd be curious to see what the home price index does now that we have a new conforming loan amount going forward of $806,500, I think. And so it'd be interesting to see if that, raises the bar for, larger price homes that could be financed. Of course that it will, and would impact that home price appreciation index. We talk a lot about home affordability, the single biggest driver for home affordability is lower rates. So we are definitely going to talk about rates here in just a second. I did see some encouraging news with pending contracts. So we had 4 months of increasing pending contracts. I think I said home starts or something stupid the other day as I was trying to scramble and get out and go home and get ready for the holidays. These last 2 weeks have been weird. So, the bond market is in this range, and, the Fed, they've had 100 basis points of cuts. And so they're in that range of 425 to 450, which this is caught right in the middle, 4.375, 4 3/8. Now, if you watch the 2-year, it touched up around that 4 3/8, and it's kind of tracked back down just a little bit lower. So it's kind of bouncing between the 200 moving day average and the 50-day moving day average. And so we'll see when all the traders really get back into action next week. And we would have had a full week of trading and news and institutional buying and all that. But God, seems like, a lifetime ago, we were talking about our former president, Jimmy Carter, passing. But all the markets will be shut down next Thursday. So Thursday, the 9th of January. So there'll be no markets open, stocks, bonds, and that kind of stuff to honor him for all the presentation that goes with a state funeral. So heads of state, get markets to close. And so we'll see what happens next week. The jobs report was supposed to come out tomorrow, typically the first Friday of the month, but holidays sometimes have these delays. So next Friday, the 10th, we'll get the BLS jobs report. Speaking of jobs, the big number that came out today was the jobless claims, and it was a little lower than expected, 211,000 jobless claims, and the continuing claims was revised down by over 50,000. So 1.844 million, that's a lot. It's not 1.9 million, but 1.844 million people are continually out of a job. It's a continuing jobless claim, so having trouble finding work once they're out of a job. I know, I've tried to help colleagues here. Anyone who reaches out for my help, all I do is try and help. So working on that for everyone. I know January and February are a little soft in our business, and things will turn. And as the market continues to try and turn, it's very interesting. There's all these factors that are coming into play, and some of them, to me, are kind of ironic that, like, the Fed is suddenly, so concerned about our debt and deficit and inflation coming from fiscal spending and fiscal policy, when the last 4 years, this is not a knock, this is just facts, over 25% of the entire history of our debt, our national debt, which is I think it's 28 trillion or something crazy number like that, over 25%, I think 27%, was racked up in just the last 4 years. But suddenly, this next administration is being taken to task with these high Treasury yields rising on the 10-year Treasury, and the Fed is no longer data dependent on their dot plot. Now they're not sure of what's going to happen with fiscal policy. But you know what? Maybe that's just how it timed out. There is a reckoning coming. We've all been talking about our entire lives. Is that reckoning happening? There are so many treasuries that need to be sold to fund our government. Are we going to grow our way out of here? The fear is the last time the Trump administration took office is that spending was about the same. They did tax cuts and a little bit of tariffs. And so net, that was somewhat inflationary. But then, of course, the pandemic started towards the end of that 4-year run, and all bets were off, supply chain issues and dealing with the Wuhan virus. It just rocked our world. So, we'll see what's going to happen in the next 90 to 120 days. We have a continuing resolution that expires in March, and you see the Speaker of the House today, which is lobbying for Mike Johnson, which is lobbying for his position. He's having to coddle to the far right, talk about extremists, who are hawks, deficit hawks. Maybe that's your point of view, but and maybe that's the time we need it, right? So I don't know. I'm not here to give opinions on that kind of stuff, but the House is very important in setting the tone for the budget and getting that to come through, and so that will bring some certainty in the first 3 months of the year on fiscal policy, and we can start to see what treasuries will do. So remember, the Fed wants to cut the rates 2 times this year. So they say, I think they want to do more. They said 4 last time, and now they're saying 2 and then 2 next year. They want to do more. The reason they just can't see that far ahead. That's the problem. And so they're looking for certainty. We all are on Treasury issuance, and that money supply is impacting our rates. I will say, however, we had a little bit of we had a great lock day today here. a nice single day lock day, a little pent up demand with holidays and markets being off, and a little reprieve, and plus it's the beginning of the month, right? So if you do a 30-day lock, it's going to fund and expire and fund in this month. So you don't tend to get someone to lock a 30-day lock that's going to expire 3 or 4 days before the month is up. Most purchase contracts expire, the last day of whatever the upcoming month is. It's typically how these calendars roll. So we have a lot going on, and I thought it was very interesting. I wrote down some notes. Demographics are huge for us, and it is 2025, and we are no longer talking about Generation Alpha, Gen Alpha. Now, you guys know I like to joke. I have 4 kids, 3 girls and a boy, and I like to say I'm raising 3 alpha girls, and they are our bosses. So we're a little afraid, especially of the 5-year-old, the redhead Serafina, the red dragon, as the year of the dragon, and my luck runs out, and we run into the wood snake year coming up on the Chinese New Year. So beta is the next generation. So, will they be higher volatility? Beta is a term in stocks for volatility, bigger moves up and down. Alpha, of course, is seeking profits. And so will Generation Beta be subservient to Generation Alpha? I doubt it. I don't know. But there's supposed to be 2.1 billion betas versus just 2 billion alphas. So as we go into the wood snake year, where we talk about, being more strategic, hopefully China and U.S. will be strategic in their debate and don't start an all-out, trade war and tariff war. Speaking of trade, in just a few days, like 12 days, Trump has inherited quite a bit of crap, right? So lots been thrown in his lap. Not intentionally, maybe, I don't know. But he's got this dock worker strike that's happening that he's got to help come in there and persuade dock workers to say, hey, AI is coming and automation is coming, whether you like it or not. Look at the ports in Japan and China. They're extremely automated, and there's still work for people. And so just like in our business, like DU and LP didn't put underwriters out of business, and, property inspection waivers didn't put appraisers out of business. You learn to do your job with AI. And so I think hopefully that dock worker strike, is TikTok going to get banned this month? All these influencers that, have been, shaking their tail feathers and making money and making millions, really. Is that going to come to an end? I mean, that's been quite, it's been quite the journey. Are we going to get a peace dividend back? I talk about that often. Are we going to help broker peace between Russia and Ukraine? Are we going to help broker peace between Israel and everyone they're fighting for? I read a report that a month ago that in light of what was going on in Iran, that the Biden administration was considering tactical strikes against nuclear development sites if uranium was enriched to 90% level in Iran. We didn't do it. And Israel has been doing all of our dirty work for us in the Middle East, especially against Iran. And so are we going to get a peace dividend back? Are we going to get rates to calm down? Are we going to get flow of money and commerce to continue? Are we going to take back the Panama Canal that we gave away under the Carter administration, which is the trade route? Now that there's all this crap going on in the Strait of Hormuz because of all these conflicts down there in the Middle East. I don't know, but if we keep drilling here at home and try and bring the price of oil down to get our, inflation down, we'll see smaller ships going through routes rerouted around through things in places like, the Panama Canal. Will we be trading with Brazil, the B in BRICS, the nations, the BRICS Plus, who are trying to go against the dollar, which is extremely strong right now and wreaking havoc across the world? We'll see. All things that matter. These things matter to rates and what's going on. Baby boomers, like I've talked many times, they hold half of America's $155 trillion in net worth and wealth. Wealth, not net worth, but wealth. And they own something like 20% of our population. 36% of total home owners are boomers. They own about $19 trillion. And there's about $44 trillion of household net worth that has increased since the pandemic, just for boomers. And so boomer widows, where are they going to fall in line with all this stuff going on? So we're going to watch the demographics. Our workforce is strong for now and hasn't weakened. We got a jobs report coming out next Friday. We'll keep an eye on that. And, of course, all the other jobs reports that come out that week, payrolls, jolts, job opening, labor turnover, quit rates, all that stuff. And we'll keep talking about the budget. And I've got some more stuff to talk about, but, of course, I didn't get to it. Let me tell you about another quote that I heard that I thought was pretty cool. So I'll leave you with this. A friend of mine who is divorced and a single mother going through two, a neighbor friend of ours, our kids are friends. Her Instagram post said, her 2025 outlook, if it doesn't help me grow, glow, or flow, just say no. It's okay to say no. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll get back to you Monday. Cheers.
You've been listening to KP Talks Dollars and Cents, a top-rated show for those who want to learn about the economy and mortgage environment. Tune in each week for more episodes, and please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Kevin Perenio does not render or offer to render personalized investment or tax advice through KP Talks Dollars and Cents. The information provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, tax, investment, or legal advice. For more info, follow KP Talks Dollars and Cents on all of our social channels.